And it's recording. Okay, so today's lesson, I'm literally just going to sketch this equation here. Y equals 6x squared minus x plus 15. I'm just going to show you the three different ways that you can approach them. And really, the three different ways comes from just this. There are three different ways that you can get your x-intercept, which also then leads to two different ways to getting your turning point. So you're going to see how the two ways are going to go, okay? So here we go. Let's go with the first one. If you copy the equation down, there are three things you need: y-intercept, x-intercept, and then turning point. Y-intercept is always the easiest one to find, especially if you have a general equation. You see, if you have a general equation, we know that y-intercept is when you let x equal 0. Now, if you let x equal 0, you can see that these are going to cancel out. So hence, y must be 15. So that's the easiest way to find your y-intercept if you have a general equation. It's different if it's a turning point form. So here, I can already say the y-intercept is when x is 0, clearly y is 15. So on the graph, I should already have 0, 15. That's half a mark right there, okay, for axis intercepts. The next one is turning point. Now, when you have a general form, there is a rule that I gave to you early on in exercise 7c. It was to find the x corner of the turning point, you use the rule x equals negative b over 2a. That will tell you what the x corner of the turning point should be. So, what is negative b and what's a? Well, b is the number in front of x, and a is the number in front of x squared, and c is the number by itself. So here, if I wrote it down, a is clearly 6, b is clearly negative 1, even though you don't see it, the number in front of it is negative 1, and then c is equal to 15. All right, so if I use the rule, then according to this, the x coordinate must then be negative of negative 1 over 2 times a, which is 6. So that gives you 1 on 12. Okay, keep in mind, I will allow you to use a calculator tomorrow in case some of you struggle with fractions. Then at least it's not the fraction component you're struggling with. It's I want the theory. I want to see that you can do the theory. Obviously, later on, if you're doing methods, you got to get pretty good with negatives and fractions, but you can build up on that, yeah? So I got 1 on 12. So my x coordinate is 1 on 12. So now my turning point, I know it's 1 on 12. All right? I don't know my y. How do you find your y? Very easy. The equation already told you is 6x squared minus x plus 15. So all you have to do is just sub it in. 1 on 12 squared minus 1 on 12 plus 15. And again, like I said, if that scares you, you can use a calculator. So I don't want this method to be the problem. The method was easy. Use a formula, find x, sub it into the equation, find y. Yeah? Use a calculator. For those who want to do it by hand, so here we go. 1 on 12 squared is 1 on 12 times 1 on 12. So it becomes now 6 times 1 on 144. So it gives me 6 on 144 minus 1 on 12 plus 15 on 1. I can see here that this is a 12. So if I times this by 12 and times that by 12, same denominators. So I'm doing this by hand, and keep in mind you could have done it with a calculator as well. So 6, 144 minus 12 on 144 plus 12 and what's 15 times 12? Ooh, that's going to take a while. 15 times 12 is, anyone know? 180. Is it 180? That's 150. Yes, you're right. It is 180. Good. All right, we've got 180. So together, sorry, times this by 12, times that by 12. So that should be 144. And that's 180. So together, you're really just doing 186 take away 12. That's 471. 4. Obviously, you can simplify that further. Okay, but you get my point. The point is to find the turning point is just simply use the rule to find x, sub it in to find y. So now I know. Obviously, you should simplify this, but I'm just trying to move on from the point. I don't want the fractions to be the scary part. I just want you to see all I've done is sub x equals 0, sub x in the formula, found the y, and sub it in to find y. So I've got 1.5 marks at the moment. 1 for turning point, 1 for y-intercept. So the hardest one has always been the x-intercept. Now, x-intercept, for exercise 7C, if you haven't practiced 7C, that's probably a good method to start off with. All you're doing here is you got to factorize. So here we go. X-intercept. X-intercept occurs when you let y equal to 0. So you're trying to solve 0 is equal to 6x squared minus x plus 15. Okay, and then from here, factorize using cross method. I would probably pick, as I usually do, I would look at this 6, and I would have thought of 2 and 3, 2x, 3x, and I would have looked at this 15, and I would have chose 5 and 3. Is there a way for these numbers to get you -1? And I can see 9 and 10. So that probably works for me there. If I paired 2x with 5, that gives me 10. 3x with 3 gives me 9. And to get a -1, it has to be -10 plus 9. So here's my answer. 2x, 3x. 2x I paired with a 5, so -5. And then 3 I paired with a 3, and it needed to be a +3. Double check the last numbers. 3 times -5 does not give you +15. I probably did something wrong. Maybe there's another pair. It's another pair here. Oh, that's a pain. Let's try. What about 1, 6, 5, 3? 30, no. 18, 5, no, that doesn't work. What about 115? No, that doesn't work. Is anyone seeing a pair that I'm not seeing?
Are you meant to like take out the 6 and then make it 6 bracket x squared minus x plus 15 over 6 and then solve all the fractions?
You could do it complete in the square. I'm trying to factorize by cross method. 5 and 3? What if it's 15, 3? No, that doesn't work. Oh. Did I copy the question wrong? Maybe I did it wrong. If I did it wrong, it might be that it might have been needed to be a -15. It could have been a -15. Let me just double check with the calculator that I didn't type it wrong. All right, well, let's see. Yeah, it's not factorizable. I reckon it was meant to be -15. Apologies there. Can you all change that equation to a -15 then? It's meant to be a -15. Yeah. I don't have the sheet. No one has a sheet because I can't print today. Yeah, so I'm asking you guys to copy it down or watch the video. Just slightly. So the y-intercept is -15. And I'm going to cheat at this point. I'm going to change this one now because I can't be bothered doing it by hand again. So we're going to do it with a calculator. Here we go. Y-intercept should also be the same now. 0, -15. And then that's still -1. That's still 6, 1 and 12. Good. All right, let's sub it in. All right, it should be... Whoops, no, that's not right. It should be... -361 on 24.
24.
Yeah, I'm just going to write this again. So it's 6 times 1 on 12 squared minus 1 on 12 minus 15. And it equals to -361 on 24.
What's that simplified?
That is...
Oh, is it
Yeah. the calculator normally simplifies the fraction for you. All right, team. We're back on track again. Here we go.
How am I meant to get?
Well, I would have gave you a better number. This one I just made up. So I didn't think twice about it. All right, here we go. We're back on track. X-intercept. Good thing I checked the 3 and the -5 there. Once you check if it works out, this was meant to be a -15 just to make it easier for you guys. So here we go. We've got 6x squared minus x minus 15. Factorized. Null factor law. Use null factor law and you get 2x plus 3 equals 0. Or 3x minus 5 equals 0. Let's solve. Minus 3 on both sides, so you get 2x is equal to -3. X equals -3 on 2. That's 1. Next one. Add 5 on both sides. Divide 3 on both sides, and you get 5 on 3. So, this method, exercise 7c, if we have a look at what I've shown you so far. Sub x equals 0 to find the y-intercept. This one, sub into the turning point formula to find the x coordinate. And then once you've got the x, sub it back in to find the y. You can use a calculator, which I did, and I got -361 on 24, right? So my turning point is now that. That's 1.5 marks. Second one, x-intercept, you let y equal to 0, and exercise 7c practices cross method. So you got to do non-monic trinomials factorizing. You get 2 brackets, null factor law, solve, and I've got my 2 x-intercepts. So if I draw the graph now, you can see the turning point is 1 on 12, so somewhere over here, and then it is about -361 on 24, which to me looks like the graph will be something like this. Okay, so we can see it'll be something like this, with the turning point at 1 on 12, -361 on 24, and then your 2 x-intercepts are at -3 on 2 and 5 on 4, or 5 on 3. Make sure to put in coordinates for each and every one of them. So here we would then write 112, -361 on 24. Apologies, I should have thought about the fractions a bit more clearly to give you a better turning point. But you see the method for exercise 7c, y-intercept, turning point, x-intercept, that's the first method, cross method. Okay, so I'm going to write here, cross method. That's the first one. Now for some of you, you might be looking at this and going, oh damn, what you might have said, oh damn, is here. Okay, it's just, there's a lot of, if your turning point, this is why I don't like using this one. I don't normally use this. I normally do completing the square, so I mix between the two. I look at the equation and I might cross method to get the x-intercepts. Y-intercept is always easy, and the turning point, I complete the square. I prefer that. That's exercise 7D. Okay? So I have a copy first. So what you should be taking out of this is, what skill are you currently more comfortable with? Is it this? If it's not, then you look at the next 2 options. Okay? This one everyone can do. This one you can do with a calculator. So it's a question of, I will give that to you on the test paper, so you'll see the formula, but you choose which method you want. Yeah, so you get notes and a calculator. What I'm looking for is the skill. Okay, so the theory. All right, we're ready? Let's have same equation. Okay, same equation, but I'm going to show you a different way now. So same thing. Make sure it's a -15. So let's do it again. I'm going to scroll down. Remember, this is in your OneNote already, so if you want to look at the notes again, it's going to be there. So I'm going to scroll down. Same thing again. Cross this one off and write it -15, just so we know. So we already know y-intercept is going to be 0, -15. No matter what, everyone's going to get the same thing. Here we go. Turning point. To find the turning point, I complete the square. So this is exercise 7D. 7D is about completing the square. So hopefully you've been practicing and you feel a bit more comfortable. I really should have chosen a different example. This one's going to scare you guys, actually. 6x squared minus x minus 15. To complete the square, you can only do it when the number in front of x squared is 1. So what you have to do here is you have to take out 6 as a common factor. And when you say take 6 as a common factor, what you're really doing is you're dividing them all by 6. That's what you're doing. So now you get x on 6, 15 on 6. Complete the square of this. Okay, now some of you might be like, completing the square is a bit hard. I'll tell you again, when I give it to you in your test, it's not going to be this nuts. Okay? Here we go. Let's do it. Completing the square says you've got x squared minus, this technically is 1 on 6x, and you've got a minus 15 on 6. You're trying to find, listening, thanks team. You're trying to figure out what should the perfect square be. So what's the last number so that you can get a perfect square? And the best way to do it, remember, it's number in front of x. If you half that should give you this number. Now what's half of negative 1, 6? What's half of negative 1, 6? Half of means times. So you get half times negative 1, 6. That's your B term. If you half that, you'll get this number over here.
112.
Negative 112. So this gives you minus 1 on 12. And remember, this one has to be an x to get an x squared. This is your perfect square. So your last number is basically the square of negative 1 on 12. Now what's the square of negative 1 on 12? It's just negative 112 times negative 112. It's positive 1 on 44. Whatever you add on is something that's fake. It didn't exist. So you have to subtract it. So we subtract 1 on 144. This is what you can type on your calculator if you're not good with fractions. Here we go. Let's work out what negative 1 on 144 take away 15 and 6 is. I'm going to use a calculator to speed this up. Negative, whoops, where's the negative button? Negative of 1 on 144. Was it takeaway? Yeah, takeaway 15 on 6. And there's your negative 361 on 144. Don't forget there's a number 6 on the outside this whole time. So let's have a think of what I just did there. I just took out a 6. Divide them all by 6 when you're taking out a factor. So 6 becomes x squared. 1, 6. 15 on 6. I complete the square here by simply taking the middle number, halving it. Square that number gives you these two. This fraction here you can type on a calculator. Here we go, last step. Completing the square, you expand the brackets, you multiply 6 to both terms, and this is what your final answer looks like. It's 6 bracket x minus 1 on 12 squared, and then 6 times, when you do 6 times negative 361 on 144, you can do that on your calculator, and it should simplify it. So here we go. 6 times negative 361 on 144, and you get negative 361 on 24. I'm going to zoom out. This is exercise 7D, obviously not going to be this hard, because obviously I put a 6 there, and I should have thought about it before I gave you this as an example. But I completed the square. Why is this good? Because you can read the turning point. Here's your turning point. Down 361 on 24. To the right 1 on 12 when you solve for it. So the turning point must be at 1 on 12 and then negative 361. That's exercise 7D. How do you find the x-intercept? This is what I'm saying. You could use what you learnt by letting it equal 0 and move everything across, but I would have done cross method. So if you were to ask me, how do I normally sketch equations? This is how I do it. I do one step. I complete the square to find the turning point. And then the last one is I see if I can use cross method. If I can't use cross method, then I solve it from here. But that's how I normally do it. So I do it this route. That's the most efficient way to sketch. But you got to be comfortable with each and every one skill. So if you can't complete the square, then you got to go back to whatever skill I just taught you in 7C. 7C, 7D are your two key pillars. Okay, now for the x-intercept, let's say, listening, this is the last one. X-intercept, let's say you couldn't do the cross method and you didn't know how to solve this step right here. So if I asked you to solve, let y equal to 0, and you've got 6 bracket x minus 1 on 12 squared minus 361 on 24, and you don't know how to solve this by moving everything across, dividing, and then square rooting, and you don't know how to do that, then the last method here, this is your third method, all you have to do is use what I taught you last session, quadratic formula. The quadratic formula will tell you what the x-intercept is. X equals 2 negative b plus minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That's the rule. What's my a, b's, and c's? Well, we already wrote it before. A is 6, b is negative 1, and c is negative 15. You've got a calculator. You can type this in, and that will tell you the x-intercept the same way that we did before. Okay, so this is my 2 or technically 3 methods that you can see. So 7D works with this bit, and then you solve that way. 7E does exactly the same thing, this one, and then your difference is the x-intercept. They use quadratic formula. So you've got a bunch of tools here. Which one are you most comfortable with? And you are allowed a calculator. I'm just interested in the pathway you choose to get your 3 marks. Okay, so remember your test tomorrow will have 12 marks worth of sketching. That's 1/3. And then 2/3 is on your factorizing skills. Cool? Here's your last bit of notes. You know, on one of the sheets I gave you yesterday, there's a last page I didn't talk about. This is called discriminant. Can you please write this down? For those who don't know what a discriminant is, if they ask for it, this is what a discriminant is. It's inside the square root. B squared minus 4ac. Boys, thanks team. B squared minus 4ac. If you want to know if an equation has 0 intercepts, 1 x-intercept, or 2 x-intercept, you can literally just figure it out from this rule. So the b squared minus 4ac, next year if you're doing methods, I can explain to you why that's the case. Yeah. But b squared minus 4ac, this is described as the discriminant. It's shown with a triangle. So b squared minus 4ac, this is what they say. You have 3 conditions. If the answer turns out to be a negative, means there's no x-intercepts. If the answer turns out to be 0, means it has 1 x-intercept. And if the answer turns out to be positive, it will have 2 x-intercepts. That's as simple as it is. So I'll say it again. That rule, when they ask you what is the discriminant, they're just asking, is it negative number, is it 0, or is it positive? So b squared minus 4ac, whatever that number turns out to be, if it's negative, no x-intercept. If it's 0, you get 1 x-intercept. And last one, if it's positive, you get 2 x-intercepts. Here's some examples for you. Okay, so as you're copying that down, it's just the one small rule in the quadratic formula, b squared minus 4ac, which I'll give to you on your test as well. So you get a quadratic formula, you get the x equals negative b on 2a, and the last one is a discriminant. You just need to know what they mean. So here's an example. Say I gave you these 2 equations. Instead of sketching it or solving it to find out how many x-intercepts you have, you can use this rule. Here we go. A, B, C. A is clearly 1, B is clearly 4, and C is clearly 4. If you want to know how many x-intercepts they have, here's the discriminant. B squared minus 4ac, let's work it out. That's 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 4. That gives you 16 minus 16, 0. Looking at your notes again, if it equals 0, how many x-intercepts should you expect? 1. So this has 1 x-intercept, and I can prove it. We'll go to Desmos. We type it in, y equals, what is it, x squared plus 4x plus 4, 1x-intercept. Okay, so all you have to do, so when they ask for discriminant, the discriminant is 0. And then what does that mean? 1x-intercept. If it's negative, no x-intercepts. If it's positive, you have 2. Yep. So here we go. Let's do the same thing again for this one. A is 5. B is negative 2. C is clearly 0. Discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. So you can see it's negative 2 squared minus 4 times 5 times 0. That gives you 4 minus 0, and the answer is 4. Discriminant's 4. If you have a positive value, how many x-intercepts do you expect? 2. Let's check it. So I type it in. Next one, whoops, this one is 5x squared minus, what was it again? 2x. There you go. 2 x-intercepts. Okay, so that's the last bit, and that's pretty much all you need to know for tomorrow. So tomorrow, 2/3 of it comes from factorizing, and then the last 1/3 is sketching. There are 3 ways to sketch. To figure out which way is most appropriate. I mix this. I do cross method. I do complete the square. It's up to you. Yep. I'm going to stop the video, and you guys